Okay, so I am, let me try to run through this third skill with you. When you're looking at the unit circle and you're being asked to kind of do two things at the same time. First of all, you are needing to change degrees into radians. So on a unit circle, this is 0 degrees, and then you start counting like a protractor. So this right here would be 90 degrees. And then if I keep going, a protractor ends here, straight line's 180, right? So from here to here is 180 degrees. And so 180 degrees is equivalent to pi radians. And so this is like halfway. So this is pi halves. And then if you're counting by halves, this is 1/2, 2/2. This is 3 pi halves. And then this would be 4 pi halves. So 0 is the same as 2 pi halves. The other thing to know is when you pick a point on the circle, that the x coordinate is equal to the cosine, and then the y coordinate is equal to the sine. So I'm just going to run through the exercises with you, and then hopefully um, you can try it again, and then email me please if you have any other questions. So forgive me that it takes me a while to kind of get through from screen to screen, but hopefully you see Khan Academy in the background here. So the first question is, what's the value of the y coordinate? And once they say y coordinate, you look at your choices. It has to be sine, so it's not going to be any of the cosine choices. Secondly, it says, what's the y value of the coordinate point of A? And A, they show, is pi over 6. So basically, they're asking you, what is the sine of pi sixth? When they ask, what's the value of the y coordinate of point A? So, oops, I stopped sharing there, but you don't actually need to know what the sine of pi sixth is. You just need to know what pi sixth is equivalent to, right? So first of all, it's sine. Sorry, I'm not talking through this. Okay, I kind of get the question. Okay, so let me take you back to my handwriting. Let me go ahead and take you back to why the answer isn't sine of pi sixths. So they're showing pi 6 coming down from here to here. And so basically, you are wanting to take a full circle and subtract pi sixths to figure out what this angle actually is. Because pi sixths, if pi is equal to 180, then pi over 6 is equal to 180 divided by 6, which is 30. And so basically, they're asking you that if I went from here to here and it was pi 6, what would it be if I started from 0, but I went counterclockwise instead of clockwise? And so if I were to have 2 pi and I take away pi 6, that's like if I needed to make a common denominator, if I multiplied 2 pi by 6 over 6, that'd be 12 pi 6 minus pi 6, and that's 11 pi 6. So that's basically the two-part question. Like, first of all, the y coordinate is the sine, but secondly, if I go from here to here and that's pi 6, what is the equivalent angle if I were to go counterclockwise instead of clockwise? So the correct answer would be the sine of 11 pi sixths. So let me jump back and answer that. Okay. For each point, select the angle that corresponds to it. So for point A, anything between 0 and 90 is going to be a denominator that is greater than 2, because the bigger the denominator, the smaller the slice. So the second choice, 8 over 7, is not going to work because that's more than one whole. That means it made it already past half of the circle. So pi is the top half. So I can eliminate the second one and the third one. And in fact, the fourth one's the only one that makes sense here is the pi sixth. When I look at B, it has to be greater. So it's not going to be the top one. And then, so it's either going to be 8 pi over 7, 7 pi over 3, or 5 pi over 3. And so um, when I see the different denominators, pi is 180. So 180 divided by 7 is 15. 180 divided by 5 is 36. And then 180 divided by 3 is 60. So that's usually what I do is I take the pi, I convert it to 180 degrees, I divide by 3, and then I know how large the slice is. And so when it says 8 pi over 7, then I know it's just 15 degrees more than 180. That one makes sense to me. This one would be, 72 degrees more than 180. So this one looks like a little bit more accurate. This one is more than 270 degrees because every quadrant, again, you're starting at 0 and then every quadrant is going to be 90 degrees. So that's how I know that it needs to be more than 270 degrees. So very quickly, 5 pi thirds. Again, at this point, they're not even talking about sine or cosine. They're just saying, what is the radian measure that is the equivalent to that spot in the circle? So 5 pi thirds makes sense to me. Again, you heard me say because it was more than 270. And so let's talk about why I think 5 pi thirds is going to be more than 270. Again, treat this as though it was 180 degrees. And the problems they're going to have you do are going to give you denominators where it's easy to divide. So 180 divided by 3 is 60, and then 5 times 60 is 300. And that's why 5 pi thirds makes sense, that it's beyond 1, 2, 3 quadrants. So this is again 90, 180, 270. So it makes sense that that would be in the fourth quadrant. It can't be perfect, but that's how I would answer this one here, 5 pi thirds. Okay, next question. What is the y value? You see this green dot right there. That's just, if they just said, what's the y coordinate, it'd be -1, right? 0, -1, but it's a lot harder. So since they said y, then it's going to be sine. And then again, that last talk about 270, that's going to be 3 pi halves because each half pi is 90 degrees. And then finally, the last one, which one would be the coordinates? Cosine is x, so you can eliminate all the choices that say y coordinate. 2 pi thirds, pi is 180, 180 divided by 3 is 60, 2 times 60 is 120, and so it'll be the one that's in the second quadrant. So this right here is like, because this has to be 0 to 90, that's 90 to 180, C would be 180 to 270. So the point B is the only one that would be in the same quadrant as 2 pi thirds. 2 pi thirds is 120 degrees. And then they say cosine. So cosine B is the x coordinate. Sorry, the x coordinate of B would be the cosine of that angle, the x coordinate of B. I hope that helped. Again, it is totally okay if it didn't help. And, don't kill yourself with so much math. Just please let me know if this helped and if you have any other questions.